Ladies and gentlemen, bridges and tunnels.
There are no public speakers.
Any public speakers?
No.
All right. Mr. President.
Good afternoon. Before we continue with the official business, I'd like to say it's my pleasure to announce that this is Al Rivera's last committee meeting. Al Rivera is our Executive Vice President, and I'd like to thank him for his 30 years of service. Al began working for the MTA in 1987. He held several positions along the way, including the Director of Operations and Special Projects, the General Manager of Throgs Neck Bridge and Henry Hudson Bridge, Operations and Maintenance Superintendent of the Throgs Neck Bridge. He was then Vice President and Chief of Staff, and lastly, Executive Vice President of MTA Bridges and Tunnels. Al's most noteworthy contributions came really here at the end of his career, as he was the coordinator of the external and internal special projects that delivered the Governor's New York Crossing Project open road tolling in record time. Al, your contributions as the leader are particularly noteworthy. I know that you've been an asset to this team as well as to the MTA at large. And for me, I want to thank you for all that you've done helping me as new president here. And again, I want to thank you on behalf of all of your colleagues here, and just want to wish you all the best in your retirement, and go have fun. Thank you.
Mr. President, let me just add my own comment. I've known Al now for a little over a year, and I can tell you in all candor that I have rarely met anyone who is more dedicated, more able, more principled, and more active. And I hate to see him go. Mr. President, you're on with your statement.
Two you. So March was really an interesting month for us. It clearly came in like a lion, and we had two pretty hectic storms that we had to deal with for us, both in terms of the snow, ice, but also the winds, which really gave us quite a challenge as we were managing our facilities. I wanted to just take the opportunity to commend our operations and maintenance personnel staff who always do well, but did particularly well during these storms. And although the storms impacted March traffic more likely than not, January and February traffic was strong. As a result, preliminary figures indicate that bridge and tunnel toll revenue is $8.3 million, or 3% higher than budget for the year to date through February 2018. So with that, at this point, I'll ask Dan DiCrescenzo to present the report on operations.
Before we do that, may I have a motion to adopt the minutes?
There we go.
Second. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Done. Thank you.
Your timing was perfect.
Thank you, President Fulton. The report on operations begins on page 19. The following is a summary of January 2018 traffic changes compared to January of 2017. Total paid traffic increased by 1.2%. Passenger car traffic increased by 0.9%. Other traffic increased by 5.3%. Preliminary monthly traffic figures for February 2018 are 5.2% higher than in the same period in 2017. For January 2018, our officers have issued a total of 30.4% more summonses when compared to January 2017, with the largest increase in the following categories: unsafe lane change, speeding violations, and cell phone violations. This information is found on page 37 in your committee report. Our aggressive mitigation efforts, coupled with this increase of enforcement and cashless tolling improvements, continue to help safety performance at all bridges and tunnels. In January, the overall bridge and tunnel collision rate decreased to 4.6 per million vehicles versus 6.8 for the same month last year, which is a 32.5% improvement. This ends the report on operations.
Any questions? Next inclusion. Do I have any changes in the work plan? All those in favor of adoption? Contrary minded? Done. Now, next.
Okay. We'll ask Eric Osnes to take us through the safety report.
Thank you, President Fulton. The report presents 12-month rolling averages comparing year-over-year performance for key safety indicators. In January 2018, customer and employee safety indicators improved compared to January 2017. As a result, all 5 safety performance indicators have lower rolling averages for the most recent 12 months than in the last month's safety report. As Dan DiCrescenzo mentioned, the January 2018 collision rate was 32.5% better than in January 2017. This improvement reduced the average rate for the 12 months ending January 2018 to 7.83 collisions per million vehicles from the 8.0 rate reported last month. B&T has also gotten closer to the 7.59 rate for the previous 12-month period and is now on pace to show year-over-year collision rate improvements in the coming months. The employee lost time injury rate for the 12 months ending January 2018 decreased to 7.0 injuries per 200,000 work hours from the 7.2 rate reported last month for the same period ending December 2017 and is higher than the 6.7 for the previous 12 months ending January 2017. The contractor lost time injury rate of 1.41 per 200,000 work hours for the 12 months ending January 2018 is lower than the rate of 1.84 for the same period ending January 17 and is slightly lower than the 1.49 rate reported last month for the 12 months ending December of 17. And that concludes the safety report.
I note that the customer collision report indicates that that is up. I note it in the absence of Mr. Zuckerman, who makes the point. Is there anything that we should be adding to the enforcement or not?
The collision rate, I think that you're looking at, that's the 12-month rolling, right, Eric?
Yes.
For the month of, the last couple of months, and including January and February, we have a lower collision rate per million vehicles. Well, thank you.
Any other questions? Cashless tolling.
The report on cashless tolling begins on page 38. January highlights are on pages 39 and 40 and include our overall EasyPass market share and more information on specific facility, peak period, and weekend statistics. Our revenue collection rates by facility through January 2017 are shown on Table 6 on page 43. As of January, all the facilities that went live with ORT through July 2017 are showing collection rates above 100% when tolls and fees are considered, with the exception of the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, which went live in early July 2017 and is at 98.4%. Based on trends at other facilities, we believe that the VN will also achieve 100% collection rate in the coming months. In total, the combined collection rate for all facilities that went live through July 2017 is 101.1%. The Throgs Neck and the Bronx Whitestone bridges went live in September 2017, so we will report on their revenue collection performance at the June 2018 committee, which will cover transactions through April. This is consistent with a 6-month time frame that allows for complete billing and collection cycles. We continue to see collection rates trending positively across all of our facilities and are on target to achieve our revenue collection rates at this time. The next item we would like to report on is the Enhanced Customer Service Center Performance Metrics on page 44. As mentioned in previous meetings, we continue to enhance our reporting on ORT performance as we collect more data and our processes mature. This month, you will see that we are presenting an enhanced report on Customer Service Center statistics to include performance metrics on the Tolls by Mail program. This is the month we begin reporting on 2008 performance. One of the key performance metrics being tracked at the Customer Service Center is the average phone call waiting time for customers. Since the implementation of ORT, there has been a significant increase in tolls by mail transactions, which in turn has put pressure on the Customer Service Center to handle the large volume of calls and general customer inquiries regarding cashless tolling. As shown on Table 7 on page 44, the January 2008 average call wait time time of 6 minutes and 56 seconds for the general call queue and 7 minutes and 16 seconds for the violations call queue are far below the performance requirement established for the back office contractor. The standard metric is that 80% of calls must be answered in 45 seconds or less. We have since imposed penalties for failure to meet this performance requirement and recently met with the contractor regarding performance improvements in this area. The contractor has since increased the call capacity of the EasyPass and Tolls by Mail phone systems, implemented wait time messages, and hired and trained a significant number of additional staff in an effort to address the issues and maintain performance standards. Therefore, as of this month, we have seen significant and sustained improvement in the customer call wait times, which is currently averaging 21 seconds for general calls, and this is a noticeable reduction of over 6.5 minutes since January. For calls regarding violations, call wait times show marked improvement as well, which currently averages 15 seconds, a reduction of over 7 minutes since January. The customer service center contractor is also responsible for the timely generation and mailing of tolls by mail bills and violation notices. And while this metric is not currently included in our Table 7, we intend to report on this metric moving forward and will continue to monitor contractor performance against established standards. Recent metrics indicate that the contractor is meeting required performance in these areas. More details are on page 44. If there are no questions, I can move on to the financial report.
Mr. Pally.
There have been a number of media reports, for lack of a better term, in relation to the situation where in the past, when you had an EasyPass and went through the toll lane, the sign would tell you whether you had sufficient funds or insufficient funds. It would give you a warning if you had insufficient funds. That is obviously not possible under cashless tolling because they don't, while you signify each item, you're not going through an individual lane. So, and that has led to a large number of media reports about people not understanding, for lack of a better term, the insufficiency of funds they may have at any moment in time in their account to pay the toll, therefore resulting in a lack of toll payment when they go through the cashless tolling, and therefore they get sent one of the violation letters. How, now, obviously we're not going to change that system, okay? We cannot go back to a system where the technology will tell every individual person when they go through the Throgs Neck Bridge how much money they have or whether they have sufficient funds. But how would a EasyPass user be able to find out whether they have sufficient funds or how much in funds they have at any moment in time in their account?
So one of the things that we've put in place is mobile alerts. Unfortunately, we don't have a high percentage, so we're working on outreach to our customers for them to sign up for mobile alerts. There have been campaigns that we've had, like on Valentine's Day, to say, you know, text me, and that kind of thing. And it's been successful, but obviously it's not at the high levels that we would like to see initially. There are other methods that we are putting in place. I know that our AVP of Strategic Initiatives, Tim Baker, has a plan for customer outreach, and this is one of them, is the mobile alerts that I could talk about. But I don't know if you want to add anything, Tim? You want to? Because I think there's other things.
Thank you, Mildred. This is the mobile alerts are the answer in terms of providing the information. And so we're doing outreach in several ways. The way that we're doing right now is focusing on what we call the most at-risk customers, and those are the ones that have manual replenishment of their EasyPass accounts. If you have an automatic replenishment, then when your balance gets low, it automatically adds funds. So we're going to be sending out letters to every single one of our manual replenishment customers with a customer account card, as well as tips for what they need to do to keep their balances so they know when they're low. And so that's something we're going to be doing in the next 2 weeks. We're also going to be putting together kits where people who sign up for mobile alerts will be able to get a kit that includes a bag, because one of the things we're telling customers is if your account balance is low, don't use your Easy Pass. And so it'll include a bag that will be a read-proof bag. They do come with your tag, but often people lose them, as well as mounting strips and things like that. So we're trying to do outreach to help our customers through this transition and provide them with the information and tools so that they can do that effectively.
What percentage of our customers have manual replenishment?
It's on a percentage basis, it's, I'm thinking, I'm doing that, it's about 15%, ballpark, maybe a little less than that. So it's about 385,000 of Bridges and Tunnels
Right,
customers.
it's a small percentage, but a lot of people.
Well, it's a lot of people. Well, we have a lot of...
Right, no, I understand. Yeah,
accounts.
I understand. So in reality, if, I'm just trying to figure out how to phrase the question. In reality, if you have an Easy Pass that has insufficient funds, it is better not to use the Easy Pass because you only get charged the regular toll than if you use the Easy Pass, because then you get charged the regular toll plus a penalty. Am I missing something? Or did I miss something in that context?
It's a little more complicated than that. But
I figured it was more complicated
You're
than that.
subject to that. If right now what we do is we give customers 10 days to make that right before we send out any toll violation. So they have a chance. If you mistakenly use your Easy Pass with a negative balance, you have the ability to make that right before any violation notice goes out.
So nobody who has a manual replenishment account gets a letter before they are told they had insufficient funds and they can remedy that manually.
No, they're not notified. That's why we want them to sign up for mobile
No, but
alerts.
you just said they have 10 days to
That's correct. At which point the notice goes out.
No, but okay, so let's assume for the moment today, I go through the toll and I don't have enough funds in my account, okay? You then, between today and 10 days from today, you notify me, and I don't mean you, the collective you, notify me that I had insufficient funds when I went over the Throgs Neck Bridge?
We will if you have a mobile alert.
Oh, only if you have a mobile alert. Okay.
Or some way to contact
I understand.
you.
I understand. So once you sign up for the mobile alert, then you have a 10-day grace period, for lack of a better term, to put enough funds in your account manually to cover that toll plus any other tolls you want to cover.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Tim, don't go nowhere. I think you might want to answer my thing too. You said 300 and how many thousand was it?
385,000
All right.
manual replenishment
All right,
customers have used our facilities in the last year.
Right. So I suggest the reason people don't have automatic replenishment is perhaps they don't have a lot of money. And of that 380,000, 302,000 of them last month got written up by you guys for a tune of $50 per whack.
50 to 100, actually.
50 to 100. So okay, so let's just stay on the low side. 50 times 302,000 is 15 million a month, times 12 months is 180 million a year. As we say in South Brooklyn, that's a lot of scarol, y'all. But it's $180,000 a year. Well, if it was just media kerfuffle, it would be so much background noise. But as often happens, the media is acting on complaints and it makes a good story, and the politicians react. So there's a bill in Albany. Are you familiar with the bill in Albany right now?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so anyway, maybe I should just turn the meeting over to you now. I think you know where I'm going with it. Is 180 million is a real loss of income for us. Perhaps you're going to tell me that these people will learn over time not to do this, and it won't always be 302,000. Someday it's going to be 50,000 or something less. But the bill will take away your $50 thing and turn that back down to what Mitch was referring to, just as if you didn't have your Easy Pass on. And actually, I think it might be less. It'd be $575 rather than $875. They would be, but so that would take 20 million off. It would be 160 million we'll be losing if that bill passes. Is that correct? My calculations are correct?
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So without getting into
I'd be glad to be told I'm wrong.
No, you're right. Without getting into the math, this is an issue of highest criticality for us right now. And what we know is that the change was a significant change for the customers that use B&T facilities. We were dealing with the Easy Pass customers who were very much familiar with the 10 days, and then they would get their first notice, and then there would be a fee on it as customers. What we are now dealing with really two paths. One is the Easy Pass customer, which is 95%, and then the 5%, which are tolls by mail. And each group has its own unique issues, and both of which are impacted by the lack of the driver feedback side. And so the key there really is making sure that folks who were either Easy Pass customers who did not have automatic replenishment and tolls by mail customers both become recipients of emails and text messages. That is the #1 priority right now. We picked up on about 400,000 customers who were the tolls by mail with manual replenishment, and we said, they're the high-risk folks, we have to get to them immediately. And so the communication campaign is going directly to them, saying to them, we know in the past you relied heavily on the signs, so you need to get this email alert. Of that population, 17% of them signed up initially, so that's the area that we're driving at hard. We're putting information into their hand, we're putting product into their hand, we're helping them understand the implications of what happens if you get into the fee cycle. But importantly, we're also, my philosophy is we want our customers to be customers in good standing. I don't want to chase fees. I want people to pay their toll in the first instance. That to me is the place to be. And in doing that, we want to be able to talk to people, communicate with people, and so we're encouraging them to respond back to us, and that way we can help get them through the process of learning how to work their way through the system and not become a victim. And yes, I would hope that 400,000 or so, that number of customers who either A, will become some sort of automatic replenishment, or in the alternative, make sure that I can contact them via email or text alert.
I may be missing something here, but when I sign up for Easy Pass, I have to give them information. I have to tell them who I am, and presumably, if I have an email address, I have to give them my email address or telephone. Why doesn't Easy Pass automatically, when you reach a number below X, whatever it is, send you a notice automatically by email? You are below the amount required, renew it right then and there. So before you even get on the bridge.
What we find is the best form of communication is the text message as compared to the email, and people have to opt in for text messages.
They put in their phone number.
They
have to put their phone number in to get the Easy Pass?
But you can't automatically use it I'm told, per FCC regulations to send text messages to people. People have to...
Unless they put you on the do not call list, there's no reason. If you saw the morons who call me, we can do that.
Our goal is to make sure that we're communicating as much information as we can to all of the customers, preferably via text mail.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but if we have an email for someone and they're getting a low balance, we send them an email, don't we? I mean,
we don't have emails for all of our customers.
But for ones that we do, and the balance is getting low, do they get an email? And they're not on automatic replenishment.
They do, yes.
They do get an email.
Yes, they do.
Now maybe they haven't updated their email, and maybe they're getting it to an email address they haven't used. I understand that thing. The other thing is I don't understand why, when someone has a low balance, they go through a toll, they might incur a fine. Why we can't send a letter out to that person within 10 days? Because we don't, correct?
So we're looking at all of the business rules to try to improve the system. What we found is that with the 10 days grace that we give to customers, close to 70% of them put money back into their account, and so they end up not being violators in the first instance. And so that was a business rule that has worked. So we're looking, again, to tweak that to see whether or not we can do something else to deal with that 30% that don't have the benefit of replenishing within that 10-day period.
There's just a basic fairness, someone should get a notice before some huge fee, and compared to our toll, $50 is a lot of money. And I think that they deserve to receive a notice. And I'm sure that our legislators will think the same. And I think it'd be very important for us to move ahead of that curve before we wind up with the same kind of legislation we just voted on. Now our commuter rail tickets are good for 2 years. And I think that was done because we shortened the time during a fare increase to 30 days. Then we lengthened it to 90 days. But I think there was a reaction from the people that represent the people of the state of New York to change that, and we're seeing that here. And I think we should get ahead of the curve now, because if we don't, there's going to be a rule where we can't collect any of it. I mean, I think that's what the legislature may do because their constituents are very upset about this.
So agreed. So what we've actually done is we've responded to that. So if you're an Easy Pass customer in the categories that you guys are describing, and you get in contact with us, those fees are being relieved. We are relieving those because we're understanding that this is a big change for our customers. I mean, the reality is we lost the driver feedback sign and the gates. And so both of those are a radical shift to the way we've done business. So what I've instructed Conduent, the CSC, as well as my staff, is to make sure that as we're working with these customers that we need to get them to customers in good standing. I do not want them to be customers with fees.
Yeah, but if you're not getting them to be, I mean, I'm all for being fair. I'm all for nice incentives to smooth the way out for people, especially, and I think maybe in terms of time limits, maybe if you made it 20 days instead of 10 days, you get more compliance. But my real issue here, though, is I don't really believe that that's going to solve your problem, because if you're not getting compliance now with a $50 over their head, how are you going to get compliance from them when you're only holding $575 over their head? And I don't, whatever, this is, so you said there's 17%, or you can reach, was the 17% you reach by email?
Right now, we're looking to grow that percentage.
Well, I'm sure you are, but that means that 83% you aren't reaching by email, and if they don't, people, I don't believe people are as connected as we normally think people are. I mean, I believe people, they don't have any money to have automatic deduction from their monthly credit cards. They probably have other sort of financial stress that makes this very difficult for them. However, when you remove that $50 over their head, which is a big, it's a big nut if you're a poor person, then I see less compliance. I don't see, which may in fact yield you more money in the long run. If you're whacking people hard enough that they learn their lesson, maybe you don't get so much money flowing to the agency. Maybe you keep a nice low painless charge so they'll keep violating over and over again. But if you make it no pain at all, if it's going to be down to what it would be for not having your for not having your Easy Pass replenished, well, why would you bother having it? By the same logic, there's going to be more violations.
Excuse me, can I just? I don't think anyone's suggesting that.
The bill is.
Oh well, no, that's the problem. But yeah, but now nobody here. I think maybe we wait a few more days. We give people notice, and then we have to hit them with the fee. I mean, that's what. But I'm saying, and I think the legislature is going to have to understand that. We have to make sure they do, because
with
it's unfair.
Respect, I think they have the message that they've got to take a good hard look. Financial report.
The financial report for January begins on page 46. We are comparing results against the adopted budget. Toll revenue in January was $146.2 million, which is 2.1% or $3.1 million better than budget. Traffic in January was up against budget by 2.2%. Preliminary February traffic is 5.1% or 1.1 million vehicles better than forecast. Preliminary toll revenue is $138.7 million, which is 5.2 million or 3.9% higher than the budget. Report on expenses. Their total expenses were $35.5 million in January, which is 10.2 million or 22.3% below budget. Our support to mass transit was $89.8 million in January, which is 16 million or 21.7% better than planned. This concludes the financial report.
Any questions? Capital projects.
The report on the capital program begins on page 60. In February, B&T awarded 11 commitments totaling 10.3 million compared to 10 planned commitments totaling 12.8 million. Year-to-date, 16 commitments have been awarded for 13.8 million compared to planned 13 commitments totaling 15.8 million. There were no completions planned or realized in February or for the year-to-date. There was one task closeout in February for 0.3 million and 6 closeouts year-to-date totaling 1.8 million. Unless there are any questions, that completes the report.
Questions? Annual program procurement report is going to be given to us under separate cover. Do I have